welcome to another episode of Superconnectivity, short edition.
Hey, the Marvel Roundup this week went an hour 22. I checked.
Yeah, it's been a long day for everybody. So, just finished up Gamma Cast, which I had to bump Phil a bit. So if he seems cantankerous, he's perfectly justified. Okay, so I want to say big news this week. But we've gotten so many big news bits. So, first off, let's just address the elephant in the room. Francine, happy birthday.
What?
No. Okay. Elephant in the room. A new trailer for a little film called Captain America: Civil War just dropped. Zootopia, which is a Disney product, so it fits into a Marvel podcast. But that's out. That's doing well. Dethroned Deadpool, but money's still going to Marvel, so they don't worry about it. But the new Civil War trailer came out, and we got Spider-Man. It's a great little thing. Although, and maybe it's just my own, I see what I want to see. I think we got, now for those of you who haven't seen it yet, go to YouTube, look up Nuff Said Civil War reaction video. And you're going to get to see me and Phil and Rob and Jack watch the trailer live and talk about it. And I do go into some theories in that, which is why our 5-minute conversation went for, 22 minutes.
20.
Yeah, you can see how these things get, I don't know why people have podcasts with me. They just wind up going long.
Content. Plenty of content.
Yeah. You definitely get your no money that you paid for this worth with all the content you get from me. But so I make mention of the fact that now, of course, as I've said before, my thought is that, the quote unquote death in Civil War is going to be Bucky, that Cap has to kill Bucky. But then I came up with this other thing is that maybe they don't kill him. Maybe Cap just thinks he has to kill Bucky. And then at the end, Bucky is alive, but he's, back under being manipulated, possibly by General Ross, who will now be the head of Hammer, yada, yada, yada. Not General Ross, because as we point out, he is just Mr. Ross, former General Ross, a civilian, because he's in his civilian clothes. He's not dressed as a general. So he's clearly, Secretary Ross at this point. And here's the thing. The trailer opens up with Bucky in his, frozen sleep chamber. And we can assume that's a flashback. But what if that's the end of the film? That Bucky has to back in gets put back on ice by Ross. Cap thinks he killed Bucky, but Bucky actually survived. And maybe Nick and Ross tell Cap, because we always know Nick's always playing all sides of the face. But they tell Cap, no, Bucky died. But in truth, Bucky's back under wraps because, of course, what Ross always wanted was a super soldier, and now they have one. The perfect soldier.
I can't remember. Did they show that it was actually Bucky in there?
Well, it was a guy in a Bucky outfit. He looked like Bucky, but he had the mask on, so it could be Monroe.
I was gonna say, I'm sure they won't do it, but what if it's Jack Monroe?
Well, that would be awesome. And we're all about Jack Monroe. Could be a Bucky clone. We don't know what it is yet. And I could be completely wrong. And it would be a real bold move to give away that kind of a twist in the trailer. But you know what? Because you're not going to... It's one of these things about hiding something in plain sight. You put that in the trailer and you're just thinking, they're doing a flashback to when he was in the Thing. And you never even think, what if they... in the Thing? What if they refreeze him? And that basically answers every issue. Cap gets his, I killed Bucky, I can no longer be Cap. The heroes are in disarray. The villains now have their own Han Solo and Carbonite that they're going to unthaw and send to get people when they need to. because we all know that Crossbones just ain't gonna make it. He's, honestly, if you want to say who dies in this, I'm gonna say Crossbone dies. Crossbone barely made it out of the last episode, so. But yeah, so that's that. Now, additional new news. Speaking of, and of course, what was the big thing in this episode or in this trailer? Not Ant-Man on an Arrow, although honestly, I think that was the most exciting part. But I think we all knew the Ant-Man on the Arrow. We got Spider-Man in this. We get our Spider-Man. A lot of controversy about the costume. I think. Here's what I'll say. I think real Marvel fans like the costume. And people that are just fans of the movie don't like the costume. Because it's a very plain costume. It looks as if some teenager in his aunt's attic sewed together a costume. Wait a minute. That kind of makes sense, doesn't it, story-wise? It's a really awesome costume. Yeah,
like you said, I mean, it's an homage to the comic book, so all true comic book fans are okay with it. They like it, but it's just the casual fan who's like, well, it doesn't look like Andrew Garfield.
You know what it is? Is it looks like a spandex leotard, which is what it's supposed to be. It's a spandex leotard because it's not body armor. Because he's not a guy who's wearing body armor. He's not Daredevil. He has freaking spider senses. Bullets don't touch him. Although we'll see if someone can get some speed on him in this. But, it makes perfect sense in context. And it looks like... And we'll say, well, it looks like a costume. It is a costume, I mean, it's like any argument you want to make. It's like, well, isn't that exactly what it should look like? It's like, really, shouldn't the other more detailed, more convoluted costumes be the ones that we should have said, well, how did some teenager living in Queens pull that off? So I think that's why I love it. And I like the fact that they have the eyes, and I still say that's going to be Parker Tech. I know Rob thinks that's Stark Tech. I think that the eyes moving, I think they're going to put a hat right on top of those eyes moving. And as I said, I think that it's because he starts out as an entertainer, and he puts in the eyes so that he can give emotion when he's performing, and that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, maybe it'll be the best of both worlds. Maybe Peter comes up with the idea, but he needs the technology, and he gets it from Tony Stark. So, I think that would be great if we saw Tony and Peter working together on some of the tech for the team.
Yeah. Well, if Robert Downey Jr. had anything to say about it, that they put that in there. Because Robert Downey Jr. No, I'm the genius. Yeah. Oh, we love you, Robert Downey Jr. Yeah, but
there's another scene with him out of armor. He gets more money, so.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of Spider-Man, another news that came this week was we've got a female character cast in the new Spider-Man film. A woman by the name of Zendaya, who is a local Disney teen queen. She's one of these from the Britney Spears Miley Cyrus factory. And who's the other one? Basically, Disney is now in this business where they take talented young women, put them on a show, make them superstars, make a lot of money, and then send them off to their own rewards in the world. And honestly, they've done fairly well, I mean, for all the nonsense you might want to say about Britney or Miley, they've done okay. And of course, half the boy bands were made up of former Mouseketeers. So, it's, I'm not going to blame Disney for any of that, but they've got this latest one, Zendaya, and she's going to be playing a character by the name of Michelle. And in the Tom Holland universe of Spider-Man. And what I found interesting about it, there's two things I found interesting about it. First, everyone's saying, well, who is she? Is she a Is she a race switched MJ, which got people all, ooh, or is she supposed to be Michelle? Was it Garcia or Gonzalez, who was a character in the '90s, who actually had a brother who was a cop, who was like Peter's roommate. Um, and either of those are a possibility. I actually think that the Michelle Garcia may be the name, but her character may be completely different. But one of the things that Marvel and Disney have said is that we've got a very big ethnically diverse secondary cast. And to me, that makes perfect sense because he is a kid from Queens. And if he's a kid from Queens, a lot of the kids he's going to be going to school with are going to be kids of color. So as much as you want your all-white Midtown High, it's probably going to be a very racially diverse Midtown High because it is from New York City in the teens, the roaring teens of New York City is not a homogenous all-white place. And to that extent, if they want to do a racially changed MJ or Gwen Stacy or whoever, I've got no beef with that because that makes sense in the context of a high school in New York City. However, that said, I'm much more inclined to think they're going to go with a character. If she's a character that's from it, it's going to be a character that's a jumping off point, much in the same way that Whitney Frost was a jumping off point. It's a name and a concept, but where they're going to take the character is going to be its own place, and then they can build it out into, in many ways, a much more interesting character. And the third big news from Marvel, because they're just dropping news like nothing human. Did you hear what just broke today, Phil? Did you hear what we got today?
I'm not sure what do you speak?
Of Luke Cage on Netflix. The new Luke Cage Netflix air date date is September 30th, which is a heck of a long time to wait. But it's coming. It's set. We have September 30th. Looking forward to that. Interestingly enough, there is some rumors we might get Iron Fist showing up in the Luke Cage series. That before Iron Fist series comes out, we're going to get Luke Cage in Iron Fist, which makes a lot of sense since you can sort of build their friendship. Because, not for nothing, it's kind of a problem in the way they've done this, starting with Jessica Jones, is if we're going to have that best friend, Luke Cage, Iron Fist relationship, Luke's got to have some distance from Jessica. Just because we've got to show that bromance. That bromance needs to be the center, not the romance with Jessica and Luke. And I'm all for that. And the third interesting bit that was just went out there today. It's been out there, but basically, Kevin Feige. It's Kevin Feige, right? Yes, has promised Coulson that he gets to have a scene in Iron Fist. They said he might not be Coulson. Gregg is going to be somewhere in Iron Fist. He's going to be on set one day. He may not be playing Coulson, but he made him promise that if you do an Iron Fist, you've got to let me be in that somewhere. Just let me come in. Now, of course, they say he may not be Coulson. But here's my take on it. You're the writers. Clark Gregg, you say you've got Clark Gregg. What do you want to do with him? Do you want to have him be a barista, or do you want to have him be Coulson walking through the scene? You can have Coulson connect your universe. You get one character from outside the Netflix universe who is going to be on your set. Where do you want to put him? I don't believe the writers are just going to make Clark Gregg be an extra in a scene, make Clark Gregg be a barista, make Clark Gregg be whatever. I think Clark Gregg is going to have to be Coulson if he walks on that set. And not only that, not for nothing, the audience is going to demand he be Coulson if he walks on the set. We will riot if you have Clark Gregg there and he's not Coulson.
and doesn't that open the door then for any or all of those Netflix defenders to show up on Agents of Shield at some point? Because I mean, none of them have a power set that you're going to need like a ton of special effects.
Well, I think what there is some, you know, Agents of Shield is ABC, Disney, Marvel. Netflix
Mm-hmm.
exists in a place that's just a little outside of that because it's on Netflix.
Mm-hmm.
Netflix is paying for it, but you know, Marvel owns it. But when you start putting the ABC folks over, what I think you might see, and here's what I actually think is going to happen. I actually think you're going to get Iron Fist on Agents of Shield because I think that
Mm-hmm.
might wind up an easier move to have a guy from the Netflix series show up on Agents of Shield than having someone from Shield show up on Netflix. I mean, I don't really know what all the legal rules and ramifications are, but to me that seems like the easier play. But you do have the reality that Gregg wants to be on Iron Fist, so I'm sure they're going to make it work one way or the other. I'm sure they can make it work if they really tried, and I think that the writers are going to want to have if they get told they can have Gregg, I think they're going to have him be Coulson, one way or the other. They're going to have Coulson there. If nothing else, they can always do a flashback storyline with Coulson. Trying to figure out what happened
Mm-hmm.
to young child Danny Rand, son of the Rand Corporation, who has disappeared. Somewhere in Tibet. That's a possibility too. But that is. But honestly, I know there's it's kind of weird with the way Marvel is with it right now, and honestly, there are reasons why they have to keep these things separate because there are all these legal rules at play. And and here's the thing: every time you put someone in a thing, you got to pay them, and every time you play it after them, you got to pay them. So you can have Gregg show up in a Netflix thing, but then every time that gets played, he's getting paid for it. And so if you're going to bring in
Mm-hmm.
a Captain America or a Thor or Robert Downey Jr. in there, yeah, you get the great guest star, but now every time we rerun it, we still got to cut a check to these guys. I don't know how much we paid them for this, but we probably paid them more than scale. To that extent, one thing that you might get from Gregg going in this is apparently he's a big enough Iron Fist fan that maybe he'll take scale on that. So but we'll see what happens. And I do and here's what it could also be. And here's what I'm going to tell you: you might get, if you don't get Gregg as Coulson, is you're going to get a barista there. But but he's gonna say something weird, and everyone's headcanon is gonna be, "Oh, that was Coulson. He's undercover." He's not really a barista. He's really Coulson. Why does he have a glove on his hand? What's going on
he'll say something about his vacation to Tahiti.
Yeah, it'll be something. But yeah. So that's that, and man, the Marvel Cinematic Universe is just popping and dropping like it's hot, and it's very exciting. Yeah. What else is going on? Oh, let's see here. Well, of course.
Shield Agents of Shield came back, and you
Oh
slept
yes.
through it.
Yeah, well, I didn't. I slept through the first airing. Yes, I started my live tweeting. I got about 4 live tweets in, and then all of a sudden I woke up and the news was on. I did go back and watch it though, and I gotta say, I really, it's an exciting restart to the season. We certainly have our Hydra ward here, our Hyde ward, our Hydra ward, our Hive ward. We've got some great interactions with now, and here's something that's bugging me. because I had this memory that the guy who can melt things, that he got scars on his face the last time he was on the series. Did that happen, or is that just my weird memory? I don't know. But I noticed he was wearing a
I
beard.
can't remember.
I noticed he was, because this was my thing. I so feel this guy is Molecule Man. He's not the Molecule Man
Hmm.
from the, but because it starts off, oh, I can melt things, and then it's like, oh, I can restructure things, and I got to think
Mm.
that he could be this guy who's going to be Molecule Man, and if he got scars in his face, and that's why he's got the beard, that goes to the Molecule Man idea. So, but I did notice he was wearing this big old beard this episode when they go to Columbia and meet Yo-Yo and have that adventure. Um, it was a lot of rebuilding things, letting us know where everyone's at. Malik has got he brought his otherworldly demon to Earth, and now what am I going to do with it? Which I think I remember distinctly tweeting that. Last when it was happening, like, yes, and I remember Fitz saying, "Yeah, you're going to bring this eldritch demon back to Earth," and that's going to work out fine for you, I'm sure. I can't imagine how this will end poorly for you, Malik. And so, part of me wonders if Malik is going to be kind of like at the end conspiring against Ward and Hive. Uh, you know, I'm going to miss Ward. I'm going to be honest. Although I do wonder if once Ward gets fully recharged, if we're going to get him playing Daisy in some way.
Hmm.
This was a thing, when this is a Whedon production when Fred gets taken over by her eldritch demon. Geez, these shows repeat
Oh
every so
yeah.
often. She actually does the same with Wesley, where she pretends to be Fred again and sort of manipulates Wesley a bit. And I wonder if we're going to get sort of a parallel with Ward and Sky. And it's interesting because I actually think that Chloe Bennett and Brett Dalton actually have something going on between them. Maybe it's just bestest friends, but you know, Chloe Bennett clearly is always Brett Dalton when they do their Instagrams. So you really get the feeling that Chloe Bennett really loves hanging out with Brett Dalton. Um, so, I do wonder about those two, and I wonder if that's reflected in the storyline, and if we might get something with that. I mean, I don't know how Ward survives the end of this season, even as Hive. Although Hive survived for 1,000 years on the other planet, so who knows? And I really want to know what the heck happened when his hands started melting as he was trying to control Magneto, Asian Magneto, Inhuman guy. These guys all need like better names, but because his hand sort of vaporizes. I'll show you what I can do, and his hand vaporizes, and it's like I can turn to mist. Ta-da! you know, I'm guessing he has some kind of ability to mind control other Inhumans, maybe. So that's probably what he's doing there. I was reading on I think it was AV Club, and someone had actually thrown out this really great idea, which is like maybe Lash came into existence because he had to kill the Inhumans because Hive was returning, and that he has to prevent
Mm-hmm.
people that could fall to Hive. I mean, it could be interesting if we get a Hive Lash showdown at the end of this. Um, that would be
Ooh.
pretty. Uh, and it was interesting. We've got a good war. I know that the Nuff Said guys said that they were kind of shipping May and Coulson. I don't think so. I really feel that May and Coulson have that perfect platonic relationship of mutual respect. And I hope they keep it that way. And part of me kind of wants to see if they're going to, as they're doing in the comic books, exploring the idea of a Fitz-May relationship. I mean, granted, there's a huge age difference there, but you know what? You wouldn't know it to look at them. You know, no, the actress who plays May is like, I think she's like 50. And of course Fitz, he's like 20 something. He's a young kid. Oh, she looks fantastic. No, well, she's works out every day and takes care of herself, and she lives in Hollywood, so that's pretty much you're obligated. You can't be Clark Gregg with a distinguishedly receding hairline as a woman in Hollywood. Let's be honest here. And good or bad or indifferent, it certainly but it lets, if you are that woman who is in that excellent shape, like Ming is, then you get to work and you get to be a tough gal, super soldier in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So good for her, and I'm glad for it. And honestly, I kind of want to see a May Fitz romance, because I don't know where Fitz and Simmons are going. I know they have this feeling, but it seems like they're kind of star-crossed. I don't know. I think that every time they get close to something throws a monkey wrench into it. And I guess I kind of feel like maybe they kind of are in each other's orbit and they suffer from propinquity, as Zelda Gilroy would say, or eventually Zelda Gillis would say, that you're just in each other's orbit all the time, that you just sort of feel like, well, I should be with this person. But really that maybe they need to find that they can achieve what Coulson and May have, which is that perfect platonic relationship. And they can be that best friends as Coulson and May are. And it not have to be a romantic relationship. And then they can pursue their own romances, Mm-hmm. Because I think that might be interesting. I also wonder if Lincoln's going to betray the team. Because I think if anyone's going to betray people this season, it's going to be Lincoln. That's my prediction. Do you have any predictions, Phil?
Yeah, he needs to do some.
Make him interesting.
I don't know. I like your prediction with I like your prediction and with the whole Ward and Skye thing. Even though it's kind of a copy of the Wesley Fred thing, it would be interesting, or even just if Ward confronts Coulson, but the whole "you killed me" and basically come back to haunt him.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Yeah. So how's Gotham? I just listened to the Before the Bat Gotham podcast today, and I was actually thinking about because you guys were discussing Gordon killed Azrael. I forget his name already. What was his name?
Gallivan,
yeah. Theo, but Theo's coming back.
Theo Gallivan.
Yeah, Theo Gallivan, and of course Coulson killed Ward, and now Ward's back, and they both feel guilty. But you're not quite dead yet. So, and somehow now you're worse. Yeah. Those of you who don't listen to it, listen to Before the Bat. I would love, and thank you for calling out the fact that I would love to live tweet Gotham, but show's on at 8, man, and my kids are still awake. At a certain point, and that's what I like about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is even that, because Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. can have its violent moments, although it doesn't define itself by that. It's on at 9:00. My kids are asleep. I can watch that with impunity, and that is, again, one more thing that Marvel is doing better than DC is that they're allowing people to watch a show without having to worry about their kids, because it's on at a decent hour for a show with superheroes. And I think Tyler said it, which is that I'd love my kid to watch the Batman, Gotham, but it's like it's not a kids show, and I want my kid to like Batman, but this is not the show for that. But maybe we're gonna get Young Justice back on Netflix. So yay! Watch Young Justice so we can get Young Justice 3 third season on Netflix. Because with all our time between Daredevil and everything else. And I haven't seen Legends of Tomorrow yet either. I went back to the 50s, and that looks like fun. Although I also like the fact that you guys also in that the fact that Snart is just a better scientist than Freeze clearly is, because Snart's gun is so much more compact and well designed than Freeze's gun. Although that's because Snart's Captain Cold's gun actually works on stopping molecular activity through essentially what amounts to a reverse speed force. Which hey DC, you should explore that, the idea of a slow force that is Captain Cold's power, and really bring him up like 6 notches as a supervillain. That would be freaking awesome. Because it is his powered by a cyclotron, which in its original inception, he charges it with the cyclotron because he had read up on how the negative rotation of electrons could possibly cause things to slow down, which of course is the freezing power that could affect the Flash. So yeah, Snart, he's awesome. But I haven't watched those episodes either because I'm just too far behind. It's too much. I keep on falling asleep. That's the downside to having a show on at 9. Is it's like if it's on at 8, I can't watch it with my kids because it's too violent, and if it's on at 9, I'm gonna fall asleep. So. Because I'm old. And on the note of how old I am, is there anything else to talk about this week?
No, I think we got it all.
We got it all. We tried. We had to crash through it, but we got it. Everyone, if you would like to tweet along with me for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., for the Incredible Hulk on MeTV at 7 o'clock on Saturdays Eastern Time. For Wonder Woman also on MeTV at 8 o'clock. Because these are all shows I can watch with my kids. The Hulk and Wonder Woman, these are all perfectly fine shows to watch with your kids. You can tweet along with me at Charlie Esser. That's CharlieEsser. Look for the 2 E's in the middle for quality. And you can write to me in that old-fashioned email way. You kids remember the email that us old people use? You can write to me at superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. That's superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. And Phil, to reach out to you, how can they reach out and touch you?
Well, not to get that personal, but you can email me nightwingpdp@gmail.com. You can find me on Twitter at nightwingpdp, where I'm usually live tweeting Gotham or Flash, Arrow, Legends of Tomorrow, but only one of them is on next week, so catch me for the Gotham live tweets.
Okay, so there we go. And anything else, just go to the Southgate Media website, your one-stop shop for all your nerding needs. Podcasts, blogs, and everything in between. And I hope to see you all there. Connect with us again. Good night, everybody.